What if survival wasn't just a fight, but a performance written by lightning, deception, and death? In this cinematic journey through Earth's wildest heartlands, lions clash at watering holes, jaguars vanish into shadow with a kill, and newborn turtles race a beach crawling with death. You'll witness nature's greatest scams, storm-driven chaos, and the fragile birth of life, all connected by a single thread: survival. But when the web breaks, who falls first? The camera soars like an eagle, gliding silently over a golden ocean of grass. Below, the African savanna unfurls in an endless ripple of heat and dust, dotted with the silhouettes of giraffes stretching toward acacia trees and elephants lumbering through clouds of their own creation. It is a kingdom ruled by sunlight, where life either adapts to the blazing furnace or succumbs to it. Yet in a single sweeping cut, we plunge into a world utterly different. The lens fogs with humidity as we descend into the emerald labyrinth of the Amazon wetlands. Here, life doesn't burn, it oozes. Steam rises off the water's surface like the breath of the earth itself. Vines tangle in an impossible knot, and every inch writhes with creatures that fly, crawl, or slither through the shadows. It is a world where stillness is an illusion. Danger drips from the trees. These are Earth's wild heartlands, places so distant and dissimilar they could belong to different planets, yet they are bound by the same ancient law: the food web. Every animal, no matter how mighty or microscopic, is linked by hunger, survival, and the unspoken rule that nothing lives without something else dying. It is not cruelty, it is precision, the balance forged not by morality, but by millions of years of trial, error, extinction, and adaptation. In the savannah, the rhythm of life beats like war drums. Predators move with purpose, prey with paranoia. The grass whispers of unseen paws. A single wildebeest calf's stumble could feed a lioness and her starving cubs. And those cubs, in turn, will one day become death on four legs, or bones bleach beneath the sun if they miscalculate. The heat is not just temperature, it is pressure. It bakes the stakes into the very soil. But in the wetlands of South America, the game is not played by sight, but by sound and vibration. Predators are ghosts. Capybaras sit like floating loaves of fur, their eyes scanning the reeds where a caiman might be watching, unmoving for hours. A single ripple, a splash in the wrong place, and the water erupts. Blood stains the lilies. Yet sometimes the capybara escapes, not through speed but through community. Alarm calls shriek, a stampede of webbed feet, and suddenly the caiman is left snapping at bubbles. In this green world, survival favors the loud and the many. Nature's rules bend with the terrain. In the dry forests of India, tigers stalk through brittle leaves that crack like fire. Every step must be a ballet of silence. But shift to the flooded forests of the Congo, and silence is useless. Here, fish hear your heartbeat, and snakes smell your intentions. Survival becomes an art of misdirection. It's the same hunger, but expressed in different dialects. A cheetah kills with speed, an anaconda kills with patience. And then, in the middle of these contrasts, some creatures cheat the system. Take the marabou stork, part undertaker, part executioner. In Africa, it lumbers like a feathered funeral with a stomach that knows no morals. Rotting zebra, perfect. Fresh kill, even better. It doesn't hunt, but it thrives. Or the hoatzin in the Amazon, a bird so ancient and poorly designed it ferments its food like a cow and smells like compost. You'd think evolution made a mistake, and yet it has no real predators. Sometimes the worst design is the perfect defense. Even plant life plays the game. In the dry scrublands, thorns and toxins ward off grazing mouths. But in wetter zones, the rules shift again. Beauty becomes the trap. Insects drawn to vibrant flowers find themselves ensnared, digested and dissolved by pitcher plants and Venus flytraps. In the battle for survival, even still things have learned to kill. These ecosystems are not simply backdrops, they are characters. The African plains are wide and honest. You see the lion coming. You hear the elephant trumpet before it charges. But the jungle lies. It hides the fangs in the foliage, the death in the puddles. In one, fear comes from what you can see. In the other, from what you cannot. Climate is the director behind it all. The pulse of rain, the tempo of drought, the dance of temperature and sunlight determines which actors enter the stage. In dry seasons, predators become desperate, herds dwindle, and even the mighty starve. In flood seasons, some species explode in number, while others vanish beneath the surge. A jaguar may rule the forest today, but when the waters rise, it is the piranha that reigns. And what ties all this chaos together is the invisible web, threads of dependence and consequence. Take away the dung beetle, and the savanna becomes a toilet of disease. Remove the termite, and the soil collapses. Exterminate the frog, and insects multiply into plagues. Every life form is a domino waiting to topple another. But in this world of grim arithmetic, there is poetry too. The way the oxpecker dances on the rhino's back, plucking ticks like a tiny surgeon. The mother jaguar teaching her cub to fish with patience. The moment when a gazelle outsmarts a cheetah by turning against the wind, knowing its scent will vanish in the breeze. These are the stories within the story, the quiet brilliance of instinct, memory, and learned survival. This documentary will follow these lives. From towering elephants who change entire landscapes to the ants who sculpt underground empires invisible to human eyes. From apex predators that hold the line of balance to the scavengers that sweep the stage clean after the final act. From birth to death and every breath in between. These are not isolated tales. They are movements in a symphony where every note matters. But beware, in nature, peace is just the pause between hunts. The air trembles before they even appear. A low vibration, barely perceptible, rolls across the cracked African earth like distant thunder. Dust lifts from the ground in lazy spirals, shaken free by something approaching, something massive. Then, like ancient gods returning to reclaim the land, the elephants arrive. Their feet fall like muffled drums, each step rewriting the landscape. Their skin is cracked and caked with ochre mud, their tusks like ivory plows slicing through time itself. These creatures are not just wanderers, they are sculptors, architects of the wild who alter everything in their wake. In the dry savanna, elephants move through the land with the quiet authority of living bulldozers. When an elephant topples a tree, not out of malice, but because it simply wants the tender leaves out of reach, it doesn't just change the view. That fallen tree becomes shade for resting antelope, a perch for vultures, a buffet for termites, and eventually, a garden for new shoots. What looks like destruction is in fact a strange kind of generosity. The chaos they leave behind isn't waste, it's opportunity. And they don't just shape the land, they carry the land with them. Seeds clinging to their wrinkled legs or passing through their digestive tracts are dropped across miles of open plains. Some plants owe their entire existence to the slow, rumbling journeys of elephants. One seed buried in dung may sprout a tree that shelters birds, feeds monkeys, and offers shade to a lion nursing her cubs. An entire chain of life can begin in the belly of a giant. But if elephants are nature's bulldozers, then hippos are its hydraulic engineers. When the rains come and rivers swell, the hippos wade into the chaos with an elegance that defies their bulk. Underwater, they are near weightless, gliding, twisting, even galloping across the riverbeds like graceful submarines in pink-gray armor. But it's not their swimming that reshapes the land. It's their stubborn habits. Hippos follow the same trails in and out of the water each day, carving channels that will one day become new streams. Their immense bodies press the soil down, redirecting the flow of floodwaters, creating oxbow lakes, watering holes, and even new wetlands. In a way, the hippo is the river's architect. It doesn't know it's drafting a blueprint, but it does, with every muddy path and every silted swirl of its tail. And then comes the paradox. For all their violence, the biting, the territorial clashes, the grunting dominance displays, hippos are also one of the most generous species in terms of ecosystem benefit. Their dung, rich in nutrients, becomes the lifeblood of aquatic food webs. Fish spawn in the soup of hippo waste, frogs flourish, and birds come to hunt the bounty. The river may stink, but it thrives. Travel westward to the flooded grasslands of South America, and the stage belongs to a different kind of giant. Not in size, but in influence. The capybara, the world's largest rodent, waddles through the reeds like a half-finished beaver who decided to take up yoga. But don't let the awkwardness fool you. Capybaras are trailblazers in the most literal sense. Their daily routines, movements between water and grass, resting spots and feeding grounds, carve tunnels through the wetland vegetation. These paths become highways for dozens of other species, snakes, frogs, armadillos, and even jaguars. Where the capybara leads, others follow. Its laziness becomes a roadmap. Its bath breaks shape micro-habitats. More than just trail makers, capybaras are social machines. Their presence attracts a swirl of ecological interactions. Ticks feast on them. Birds feast on the ticks. Predators feast on the birds and the rodents alike. The capybara is not just a rodent. It's a mobile buffet, a walking hub of energy exchange that ripples through the marsh like a signal pulse. Yet these giants, all of them, carry with them the double-edged sword of their power. Their abundance means abundance for others, but their absence can mean collapse. Remove the elephant, and the forest thickens unnaturally, choking out grasslands that grazers need. Remove the hippo and fish die off. Birds vanish, the river chokes on its own silence. Remove the capybara and the wetland grows still, overgrown, silent. Giants do not fall quietly. Their silence echoes. And what's most haunting is how quietly these keystones are slipping away. Poaching, habitat loss, pollution. Each chip from their numbers causes unseen avalanches downstream. The forest doesn't scream when the elephants vanish, but over time it gasps. Slower growth, fewer birds, stranger vines strangling the understory. The river doesn't cry when the hippo dies, but the fish do, and the herons and the otters downstream. Nature whispers its warnings through smaller lives, yet hope stirs in unexpected corners. In some parts of Africa, communities are reintroducing elephants to landscapes where they once ruled. The changes are immediate. New clearings appear, grass returns, and suddenly antelope herds reappear like memories restored. In Brazil, conservationists are tracking capybara paths to guide water management efforts, realizing that the rodents know the land better than any satellite. Sometimes the best engineers don't use blueprints. They just live big, walk far, poop productively, and eat with gusto. And just when you think the architects of the ecosystem can't surprise you further, the rains begin to fall. Dry ground turns to slush. Rivers explode their banks. The giants move, and with them the world changes again. But when flood meets fire and migrations collide, who rises to the challenge? The answer lies not with size or strength, but with cunning. The sun rises not with a roar, but with a whisper. In the early blush of dawn, the savannah does not thunder with the footsteps of lions or the trumpets of elephants. Instead, it crackles with smaller, subtler movements. The quiet rustle of dry grass, the soft thump of padded feet, the alert chirps of creatures whose entire existence depends on being 1 second faster, 1 hair more careful than the predators hunting them. This is not the realm of kings, but of survivors. Clever, twitchy, perpetually paranoid, the prey animals, whose brilliance lies not in size or strength, but in timing. As the morning warms, a blur of beige pops up from a burrow like a jack-in-the-box with eyeliner. A meerkat, upright, scanning, nose twitching, tail straight like a flagpole. 1 becomes 2, then 10, and suddenly an entire sentry line rises along the edge of the mound, eyes scanning in all directions. But this is no casual sunbathing. This is tactical exposure. Every meerkat stands not just for themselves, but for the entire clan. Their eyes search the skies for kestrels, the grass for cobras, the horizon for jackals. They are not paranoid. They are professionals. In the chessboard of the wild, meerkats are the pawns that move like queens. When danger comes, and it always does, it arrives from above. A shadow, sharp-edged and fast, flickers across the dust. Instantly, alarm calls erupt like firecrackers. The meerkats scatter, vanish underground with military precision. The youngest tucked beneath mothers, the old taking last watch. The hawk misses its mark, screaming past empty sand, and somewhere below, tiny heartbeats thunder in relief. The entire sequence took 5 seconds. That's the difference between life and lunch. But not all small creatures operate with such structure. In the tangled, wet chaos of a rainforest puddle, a poison dart frog barely bigger than a thumb pad clambers up a slick leaf. Its skin glows electric blue, like it forgot to turn off its warning lights. Unlike the camouflaged masters of the forest floor, this little jewel advertises its presence with the confidence of a creature that knows it tastes like death. Its skin secretes a cocktail of alkaloids harvested from its insect diet, a natural chemical weapon so potent that 1 gram could kill several grown men. The message is simple: touch me and you'll regret it. But even this armor has an Achilles heel. If the frog is relocated to captivity, fed a different diet, its toxins fade. It becomes harmless, a tiny, colorful imposter. Nature's irony at its finest, deadliest when free, safest when spoiled. Further along the forest fringe, where light filters in like syrup through broken canopies, A banded mongoose skitters between roots and rocks, nose twitching with caffeinated enthusiasm. It is not as pretty as the frog, nor as organized as the meerkat, but it carries an attitude large enough for both. A solitary snake slithers across a log nearby, a spectacle that would send most creatures fleeing. But the mongoose doesn't flee, it accelerates. In a flurry of grunts and spins, it lunges. The cobra coils, flares its hood, and strikes. But the mongoose, lightning fast, dodges, tumbles, and counters with a bite aimed not at the body, but the base of the skull. This is not luck. This is evolutionary finesse. The mongoose's acetylcholine receptors are oddly resistant to snake venom, a quirk that science still marvels at. While most prey animals survive by fleeing, the mongoose survives by attacking the very thing that hunts it. In drier lands, beneath craggy rocks and basking heat, a desert iguana flattens its belly to the sand, drawing warmth and focus in equal measure. Its coloration mimics the pebbled terrain so perfectly that it often disappears while sitting still, a living glitch in the landscape. But when it moves like the wind, not in straight lines, but in zigzags, breaking visual patterns, confusing the eyes of hawks that rely on motion. If caught, it performs an even more bizarre trick, detaching its tail, leaving a writhing, twitching decoy that buys just enough time for escape. Some predators, caught up in the spasms of the discarded tail, don't even notice the iguana has gone. It's like handing your attacker a decoy while slipping out the back door. Evolution's sleight of hand. Each of these creatures, meerkat, frog, mongoose, iguana, occupies a different landscape, a different rhythm, a different threatscape. And yet they share one unifying principle. They live life in micro-moments. For the big beasts of the wild, decisions are made over hours or days, tracking, stalking, cornering. But for these smaller heroes, every blink is a decision. Every footstep is an audition. And yet their role is far greater than mere survival. By staying alive, they feed the machine. Predators depend on them. The health of the ecosystem depends on them. A lion cannot thrive in a world without prey. A hawk cannot soar without those who scatter beneath it. And their brilliance doesn't end at escape. Many shape their environments just by existing. Meerkats dig elaborate burrow networks that aerate the soil, providing shelter for insects, reptiles, and even snakes. Frogs regulate insect populations, their hunger keeping mosquito swarms in check. Mongooses control venomous snake numbers, acting as biological security. And iguanas disperse seeds through their droppings, helping to replant the very land that hides them. These aren't just background characters. They are the janitors, farmers, and security guards of the wild. Even their societies hold lessons. Meerkats babysit each other's pups, taking turns while others hunt. Mongooses form matriarchal clans, where dominant females lead cooperative hunts. Frogs carry their tadpoles on their backs to safer waters, a move that in human terms would be like piggybacking your baby through a shark-infested canyon. The ecosystem, it turns out, is filled not just with violence, but with care. Invisible kindness is tucked between the fangs. But their world never pauses. The moment one danger is gone, another creeps in. A false sense of safety is the most dangerous illusion. A meerkat returning to the surface may find a boomslang coiled silently above. A frog that flashes its color may meet a predator immune to its toxins. A mongoose may mistake a puff adder for a harmless vine. And an iguana, too slow in the wrong wind, may be spotted by the hawk after all. For these masters of the micro-moment, survival is not a grand battle. It's 1,000 tiny ones, fought silently, invisibly, every minute of every day. Their genius is not dramatic. It is efficient, constant, and humbling. And in their small victories lies the continued rhythm of the world. But now, as the heat deepens and the skies begin to smudge with shadow, a new sound emerges. Not the chirps of warning or the rustles of escape, but the low, deep-throated rumble of a predator's return. For even the fastest, cleverest prey can only run so far. The silence before a kill is not absence, it's saturation. The air itself thickens, every leaf seems to hold its breath. The flies stop buzzing, the grasses still their sway, and time bends as a shadow breaks from the bush. A lioness, shoulders low, pads through brittle savanna grass, each step deliberate, soft as a whisper. Her eyes fix on a wildebeest at the edge of the herd, old, distracted, half limping. She's not here for the strong. She's here for the balance. Across the world's wild heartlands, the apex predators do not simply hunt, they govern. And like any seasoned monarch, Their rule is bound not just by dominance, but by duty. Lions, jaguars, crocodiles, eagles, they are the enforcers of an unspoken code, one etched in claw marks and stained in blood, yet balanced by restraint and reason. Predators, despite their fearsome reputation, do not kill indiscriminately. Each attack is a calculation: risk, reward, energy, outcome. And in that logic lies the secret to nature's order. In the Serengeti, lions patrol their domains like border agents with unshakable instincts. Territories are not just drawn in the dirt. They're marked by scent, by sound, by history. A lone male straying into the wrong patch of land may find himself surrounded in minutes, not by enemies, but by enforcers of lineage. Coalitions of brothers, bonded by blood and survival, patrol these invisible lines, their roars carrying across miles like thunder warning the sky. The aim isn't always war. Often, it's deterrence. The lion's roar can be heard up to 5 miles away, not just to attract mates or challenge rivals, but to say, "This land is taken. Turn back or face the consequences." But when the balance tips, when a pride grows old or fractured, challenges come. The takeover is brutal, not just a battle of muscle, but a coup of destiny. New males, upon seizing control, may kill the cubs of their predecessors. It is not cruelty, but strategy. By ending another's bloodline, they ensure the survival of their own. And yet, within this harsh logic lies an unexpected truth. This cycle maintains genetic vitality, keeps populations strong, and ultimately protects the land from stagnation. The lion does not destroy for pleasure, it prunes for performance. In the steaming jungles of the Amazon, a different code pulses beneath the leaves. Jaguars, elusive, solitary, silent, stalk the shadows with a ghost's precision. Unlike the cooperative chaos of lion prides, the jaguar operates alone, an introvert in a forest full of noise. But its silence is not indifference, it is intent. When a jaguar kills a capybara or a caiman, it does not linger to display dominance. It drags its prize into the underbrush, out of sight, as if paying homage to the privacy of death. And its preference for the sick or slow ensures the herds remain agile, alert, and healthy. In this way, the jaguar is both judge and surgeon, removing weakness from the wild with the efficiency of a scalpel. Yet even among predators, balance must be maintained. Too many kills and the prey vanish. Too few, and disease or starvation will do what fangs should have. The jaguar, like all apex hunters, is bound by limitations, not just ecological, but physiological. Its strength has limits. Its range is vast, not because it wants more, but because it needs just enough. The forest does not grant excess, it grants equilibrium. Then there are those who kill with neither fang nor claw, but from the sky. Eagles, hawks, and owls dominate the air like silent missiles, striking with shocking precision and elegance. A crowned eagle in Africa can snatch a monkey from the canopy in mid-leap. A golden eagle in Central Asia can tackle mountain goats off cliffs. And yet these raptors are not bloodthirsty. They are efficient. A single meal may last days. They do not kill for abundance. They kill with restraint. Their hunting rituals are refined over years. Young eagles fail again and again, watching, learning, mimicking the curves of the wind. Some species even pass down techniques, favored hunting perches, swoop angles, kill zones. Raptors do not just inherit wings, they inherit wisdom. And their prey? They adapt in turn. Faster takeoffs, tighter flocking, sharper eyes. Every failure is a lesson. Every survival reshapes the species. This is evolution in real time, guided not by textbooks but by talons. But perhaps the most ancient and terrifying of all predators lurk where the water meets the land. Crocodiles. Ambush artists sculpted by 200 million years of experimentation. They do not chase, they do not tire, they wait. A crocodile can go months without food, conserving energy like a living battery. And when the time is right, when a gazelle drinks too close or a zebra loses its footing in the current, the water erupts. Jaws clamp with over 3,000 pounds of force, bone snaps like twigs, and silence returns just as quickly. It is clinical, almost surgical. Yet even the crocodile obeys the code. It prefers the weak, the young, the desperate. Not because it is kind, but because it is efficient. A full-grown hippo? Too dangerous. A giraffe? Too tall. But a limping wildebeest during the migration? Perfect. In this way, even the crocodile contributes to the great balance. Its terror maintains health. Its ambush teaches caution. and its presence ensures the rivers don't become complacent. What binds all these hunters together, land-based, arboreal, aquatic, aerial, is not just their power, but their purpose. They prevent overpopulation, they cull the diseased, they pressure prey into greatness. Every sprint, every evasion, every anxious glance into the shadows is a gift from the predator. Because fear is the finest tutor in evolution's school. And curiously, predators themselves are vulnerable to the same code they uphold. A sick lion cannot hunt. A wounded eagle cannot fly. A blind crocodile becomes a corpse in slow motion. They are kings, yes, but fragile ones. Their reign is earned every day. No creature, no matter how mighty, is exempt from nature's audit. Still, within this blood-inked code, there is nuance. A lioness will sometimes kill but not eat, leaving the carcass for scavengers. The hyena, the jackal, the vulture. A leopard may stash its kill in a tree and not return. A wolf may pause its chase to protect a packmate. These aren't accidents. They are patterns, flickers of complexity beneath the instinct. Are they mistakes? Altruism? Or just fragments of a deeper logic we haven't yet understood? Whatever the answer, the message is clear. Predators are not chaos incarnate. They are equilibrium in motion. Their presence is the sharp edge that sculpts the beauty of the wild. Their actions write the rhythm of life. And yet, even the top of the food chain is no guarantee of peace. Because in the aftermath of the hunt, when bones cool and silence returns, a second wave of creatures awakens. Those who dine without lifting a claw, those who thrive in decay. They are the cleanup crew of nature, the recyclers, the scavengers. When the roar fades and the dust settles, when the kill is over and the predator licks its bloodied jaws beneath a setting sun, something else stirs. Not in the open, not with ceremony, but in the hush that follows. The golden hour of the savannah turns copper, the heat wilts into shadow, and the scent of exposed meat, warm, iron-rich, unmistakably mortal, coils through the air like an invitation. And where death has dined, others arrive, not to hunt but to harvest. In the African plains, the first sign is often sound, an unsettling, laughing cackle rising from the grass like bad gossip. It is not a joyous laugh, but something older, more primal, as if the earth itself were amused by its own appetite. The hyenas have heard the end before anyone else. Their ears catch the final thud of a wildebeest long after the lion has disappeared into the undergrowth, leaving behind bones still steaming, sinew still twitching. Hyenas don't wait for permission. They approach with the swagger of those who know they're essential, the cleanup crew that keeps the wild from drowning in its own waste. Their reputation is stained by myths, cowardly, thieving, grotesque. But behind those gnashing teeth lies a stomach of steel and a purpose as noble as any lion's charge. Hyenas can digest bone, horn, and hooves. Nothing goes to waste. They don't just eat the leftovers, they erase the evidence. What they leave behind is chalk, sun-bleached and sterile. And in a twist of elegance, their droppings are white with calcium, nature's way of saying cleaned and done. But it is not a one-actor show. As the hyenas finish the meat, another cast descends from above. The sky darkens with wings, not from clouds, but from an avian army spiraling toward the corpse like ash from an unseen fire. Vultures, with their hunched necks, bald heads, and eyes like obsidian marbles, dive in with surgical greed. There is no elegance to their arrival, no order to their feast. Beaks jab, wings batter, and a strange etiquette emerges from the chaos. The lappet-faced vultures claim the tough hides and sinew, their hooked bills able to tear what others cannot. White-backed vultures swoop in for muscle and marrow. Hooded vultures, smaller, sneakier, dart between legs like feathered pickpockets, extracting morsels the giants miss. Each plays its part. Each fills a niche. Together they consume what would otherwise rot beneath the sun, attracting flies, disease, and decay. The smell is not for the faint-hearted, a blend of sour heat and rusting metal, but to these birds, it's perfume. Their bald heads, long thought grotesque, are not evolutionary accidents but masterpieces of design. Blood doesn't cling to feathers that aren't there, and bacteria can't breed in sunlight-scorched skin. While other birds groom obsessively, vultures walk into disease and walk out clean. And then, watching all of this with a patience bordering on philosophical detachment, stands the marabou stork, the undertaker of the savannah. Draped in feathered robes, neck hunched like a judge at sentencing, The marabou surveys the scene not with urgency, but entitlement. It doesn't dive in. It waits. When the others have gorged and the field is picked clean, the marabou steps forward, pokes around like a connoisseur sampling a charcuterie board, and consumes what others find inedible. Tendons, cartilage, gristle, nothing escapes its beak. It is the last to arrive and the last to leave. In the rainforest, where light barely kisses the floor and moisture hangs like a veil, scavenging takes a different form. There is no grand stage, no public spectacle. Death disappears quickly here, swallowed by layers of life stacked upon one another. A monkey that falls from the canopy vanishes into a tangle of insects and shadows. Army ants arrive first, moving like liquid, consuming everything soft in minutes. But beneath the surface, in the detritus and dark, the real champions churn. The beetles. Dung beetles, the unsung janitors of the wild, labor in silence. While others feast, they roll. A single ball of dung can be larger than their entire body, yet they push it across uneven ground with the stubborn dedication of a creature possessed. Why? Because inside that foul sphere lies treasure, nutrients for their young, moisture for the soil, nitrogen for the grass that feeds the antelope, that feeds the lion, that starts the cycle again. In one of nature's most ironic twists, the animal that touches the lowest waste holds the highest responsibility. Without dung beetles, the savanna would drown in its own excess. And if there is water nearby, a stream, a river, or a flooded pool in the Amazon, the cleanup continues underwater. Piranhas, so often reduced to Hollywood villains, are in fact surgical scavengers. They rarely kill large animals. Instead, they arrive when the life has already left, stripping carcasses clean with shocking efficiency. Their teeth are like scalpels, their teamwork choreographed. In moments, flesh becomes memory, and bones settle into the silt. Even underwater, nothing is allowed to linger. What all these creatures share is not beauty, but purpose. They are nature's recyclers, the unseen hands that reset the stage. Without them, death would clog the system, rot would overwhelm life, disease would spread unchecked. And perhaps most fascinating of all, they do it not out of kindness or moral compass, but hunger. Their appetites purify the world. Their grotesque feasts are acts of ecological mercy. Yet for all their value, they are often shunned. Humans have long associated scavengers with filth, evil, even witchcraft. We admire the lion's pride, but recoil at the vulture's banquet. We marvel at the jaguar's elegance, but ignore the beetle's burden. But in the wilderness, where sentiment holds no sway, it is the scavenger who keeps the kingdom clean. Still, even this after-party has its own drama. Hyenas don't just scavenge, they challenge. A bold clan may chase a leopard off its fresh kill, risking claws for a bigger bite. Vultures may bicker so fiercely over scraps that jackals sneak in unnoticed. Piranhas may turn on each other if food runs low. And sometimes a scavenger becomes the scavenged. The hierarchy shifts, the roles blur. In death's domain, everyone is both guest and host. And while these scavengers mop up the aftermath of violence, they also prepare the land for renewal. Grass will grow where bones once lay. Insects will thrive in the dung. New generations of predators will train on cleaner hunting grounds, and prey will eat from soil enriched by what was once a corpse. Nothing is lost, nothing is wasted. But as the air clears and the final bone is carried off, another tension builds. The rains are coming. Floods will transform the land. Rivers will swell, and with them, the battle for survival will shift again, not on land, but around water. There are places in the wild where the land does not merely hold life, it negotiates for it. Where the price of survival is counted not in claws or teeth, but in drops. Water, that most unassuming element, becomes the central character in nature's most brutal drama. It glistens, it lures, it betrays. And as the sun begins its climb over the savanna, casting long shadows and coaxing a pale shimmer off the last remaining puddles of the dry season, every creature within reach knows one truth: water is no longer a right.
It is a risk. The air here is not just hot, it's thirsty.
You can taste the dryness on the wind, feel the grit of evaporated earth between your teeth. Every breeze seems to suck the last beads of moisture from your skin. And at the heart of this parched kingdom lies a waterhole, more mud than mirror now, its edges cracked like ancient pottery. But it still holds life. And life, as it often does, attracts danger. A zebra herd approaches, their hooves sending puffs of dust skyward, heads low, ears flicking in synchronized paranoia. They've made this journey before, and each time they know it may be their last. Because beneath the calm surface of the shallows, something stirs. The water is still but not empty. A ripple here, a swirl there, the only warning signs of a crocodile's patient vigil. These predators are not hungry. They are calculating. Their heartbeat slows to just 2 or 3 per minute. They can hold their breath for over an hour. Ambush, not appetite, is their art. As the first zebra dares a sip, muscles coiled and eyes darting, a sudden explosion ruptures the silence. A geyser of water and scales, a bone-cracking snap. The zebra jerks backward, lucky this time. But luck is a poor survival strategy. Another isn't so fortunate, dragged sideways into the brown froth, swallowed in the churn. And just like that, the balance shifts. The herd scatters. The waterhole seconds ago a lifeline becomes a graveyard. But predators aren't the only ones competing for this liquid gold. The true masters of water access are the elephants. Their arrival is seismic, not subtle, not secretive. You hear them before you see them. The low rumble of communication, the snapping of brush beneath massive feet, the hollow groan of trunks testing the air. When elephants come to drink, they don't cue, they command. Smaller animals flee before their bulk, not from aggression, but out of instinctual reverence. The elephants don't just drink, they dig, turning dry beds into bubbling springs with their tusks and memory-guided trunks. They remember where water once was, even years before. Their mental maps of the land are more reliable than satellite data. Yet even they are not above conflict. In dry seasons, when pools shrink to muddy basins, bull elephants may clash, tusks scraping and trunks thrashing over who drinks first. These duels are not just for dominance, they're for survival. A single misstep in a drought can doom a family. And while the bulls battle, vultures circle above, not out of curiosity, but out of habit. Because where water fails, death tends to follow. Further upriver, where the floodwaters of the monsoon have yet to retreat, a different story unfolds. In these swollen arteries of life, animals gather not out of desperation but abundance. And even here, conflict simmers. Hippos wallow in great pods, their pink eyes just breaking the surface like bloated periscopes. They seem lazy, even comical, until you watch them fight. Hippos are not the peaceful vegetarians of children's books. They are tyrants of the shallows. A territorial bull will attack anything that dares enter his stretch of river. Crocodile, buffalo, even rival hippos. Their jaws, capable of opening 4 feet wide, can crush bone with ease. The water churns red and then settles. The victor bellows, his mouth agape in triumph, and the river is quiet once more. But the message has been sent. During flood seasons, everything migrates. The herds stretch like ribbons across the plains, drawn forward by a whisper of green or the sparkle of a distant lake. But migration is not a parade. It is a gauntlet. Predators track these movements with relentless precision. Lions take positions near watering holes where prey must pause. Cheetahs crouch near shady thickets, ready to explode in pursuit of a gazelle seeking a quick drink. Even hyenas know the timing, waiting until the heat drives the desperate into vulnerable patterns. And yet, perhaps the cruelest irony is that water, while life-giving, also carries death in subtler forms. In the rainforest, where it never seems to stop raining, pools left undisturbed become breeding grounds for parasites, bacteria, and biting insects. A frog laying its eggs in what seems a safe pond may, in fact, be seeding its future demise. Some pools breed dragonfly larvae that feast on the tadpoles before they grow legs. Mosquitoes emerge in droves, carrying diseases that cripple entire populations. And still the animals come because water, however risky, is always better than none. Some creatures, ever the opportunists, learn to manipulate this thirst. The assassin bug of the tropics mimics a dewdrop on a leaf, attracting parched insects. When the victim lands to drink, it is impaled with precision. The archerfish spits jets of water into the air, knocking insects from overhanging branches. A hunter that uses water as both lure and weapon. Even plants get in on the act. The sundew traps small prey with glistening drops that mimic moisture, only to dissolve their flesh in sticky digestive enzymes. The jungle, it seems, is full of con artists armed with water. As the dry season drags on, competition peaks. The watering holes become war zones. not with swords or shields, but with silence, stare-downs, and standoffs. Giraffes spread their legs awkwardly to lower their necks, vulnerable for long seconds. Impalas dart in, sip, and vanish. Baboons screech at leopards hiding in the brush.
Everything revolves around water. The chance to reach it, the price of approaching it, the cost of leaving it behind. But then the clouds build.
At first distant, then swelling with weight and promise. Thunder rolls over the horizon like a drumbeat announcing change. And when the rain finally comes, not as a gentle mist, but as a sky-tearing deluge, the land drinks like a starved animal. Rivers rise, pans fill, waterholes overflow, the predators retreat, the prey scatter, and just for a moment, the war pauses. Yet the balance is temporary. With abundance comes new challenges. Floods bring fish, but also crocodiles in places they shouldn't be. Pools expand, but become harder to defend. Breeding surges, but so does predation. In the wild, there are no happy endings, only cycles. And just as the water gives life, it prepares the next battleground. Because the rains do not last forever, and when the flood retreats and the puddles dry to cracked clay again, the thirst returns. In the great theatre of the wild, not all who thrive are fast, strong, or armed with fang and claw. Some survive by pulling strings from the shadows, playing nature's game with sleight of hand and borrowed masks. These are the illusionists, the impersonators, the tricksters whose greatest weapon is not what they are, but what they seem to be. Here, survival is not about brute force, but brilliant lies. As dawn bleeds over a coral reef off the coast of Indonesia, the underwater world glows like a dream too bright to be real. Colors shimmer, textures dance, and every crevice holds a story. Among the dazzling chaos drifts a shape, smooth, fluid, pulsing with hypnotic rhythm. The cuttlefish glides as if born of the reef itself, its skin shifting hue by the second, from sandy beige to stormy blue, then marbled crimson. One moment it resembles a patch of coral, the next a harmless school of fish. But this isn't fashion, it's strategy. The cuttlefish is a master of disguise, the Houdini of the sea. Its skin contains millions of chromatophores, pigment cells that open and close like microscopic umbrellas, allowing it to mimic not only the color of its surroundings, but their texture and movement as well. It's a living projection screen, a biological deepfake, but camouflage is just the opening act. In moments of desperation, male cuttlefish have been known to impersonate females, sneaking past dominant rivals by donning the skin tone and body language of potential mates. As the alpha guards his harem, the cross-dressing intruder sidles up, mates with the female, and vanishes. Mission accomplished. Betrayal undetected. In the cuttlefish's world, the best lover is also the best liar. Back on land, under the blistering sun of southern Africa, a slender brown snake slithers into a clearing. It spots a predator, a jackal, watching from the shade. Cornered and outmatched, the snake could strike. Instead, it collapses, its body spasms. It rolls onto its back, mouth agape, tongue limp. It smells wrong. A foul odor seeps from its cloaca, a scent so repulsive even scavengers rethink their appetite. This is not surrender, it's performance. The snake is faking its own death, an Oscar-worthy display of helplessness that fools even experienced predators. The jackal, uninterested in spoiled meat, trots away. Moments later, the snake rights itself, glances around and continues on, alive, unbitten, and thoroughly pleased with its dramatic talent. The trickery, however, is not always reactive. Sometimes it's proactive, manipulative from the moment of birth. In the forests of Eurasia, the cuckoo lays its egg, not in its own nest, but in someone else's. A warbler, perhaps, or a reed bunting, diligent, trusting, and destined for heartbreak. The cuckoo's egg hatches first, and what emerges is not just a chick, but a usurper. Blind and featherless, it instinctively shoves the host's eggs over the edge one by one, until it is alone. The adoptive parents, unaware, raise the imposter with tireless devotion, stuffing the gaping mouth of a chick twice their size with grubs and caterpillars. Evolution has fine-tuned the ruse. Cuckoo chicks even sound like an entire brood, triggering maximum feeding responses. It's identity theft at its most devastating and shockingly effective. In the grasslands of North America, another form of deception unfolds in the skies. The killdeer, a small ground-nesting bird, faces a constant threat from foxes, snakes, and unwelcome hooves. Its nest, a simple scrape in the earth,
is virtually invisible, so the killdeer plays a dangerous game to protect it. When a predator approaches, the adult bird bursts from the grass, flapping one wing as if broken, squealing in exaggerated pain. It limps, stumbles and writhes, dragging itself away from the nest in a performance so convincing it draws the predator's attention. And only when the danger is safely distant does the killdeer snap into flight, unharmed, vanishing into the sky as if to say, "Gotcha." Even in the insect world, deception reigns supreme. The Malaysian orchid mantis sits perched among blossoms, its body sculpted into the perfect mimicry of a flower petal. Butterflies and bees, drawn in by the promise of nectar, land within reach of its waiting limbs, only to be snapped into silence before they realize the mistake. It is a predator disguised as paradise, and sometimes the line between predator and prey isn't even clear. The spider-tailed horned viper of Iran dangles its tail like a wriggling grub, luring in birds eager for a snack, only for them to become the snack themselves. The bait was never food. It was the predator's own body, repurposed as deceit. Deception doesn't stop at hunting. Some creatures fake power to avoid being hunted themselves. The owl butterfly, for instance, bears giant eye spots on its wings, not random decoration but evolved mimicry of an owl's gaze. When disturbed, it flashes its wings, sending smaller predators into a panic. After all, who wants to pick a fight with something staring back? Meanwhile, the harmless milk snake sports the same red, black and yellow bands as its venomous cousin, the coral snake. The result? Predators think twice. It's nature's version of bluffing your way out of a brawl. Even plants get in on the scam. The South African carrion flower doesn't bloom to attract bees, but blowflies. Its petals look like rotting flesh. Its scent mimics decay. Flies arrive in droves, laying eggs that will never hatch, and pollinate the flower in the process. It's a botanical bait and switch, a masterpiece of olfactory fraud, and perhaps the most mind-bending trick of all belongs to the cleaner fish of coral reefs. Normally, cleaner wrasses set up stations where larger fish line up for a spa day, parasites removed, dead skin nibbled away. But lurking among them is the blenny, an imposter cleaner that mimics the wrasse perfectly in size, shape and behavior, until the moment of betrayal. Instead of cleaning, it takes a bite of fin or scale, then darts away before the client realizes. It's a heist in plain sight, a con that survives only because the ocean doesn't expect such treachery in such a small package. What these stories reveal is not just the depth of nature's creativity, but the sheer flexibility of life. When strength fails, deception succeeds. When speed isn't enough, mimicry fills the gap. In ecosystems where survival is an endless exam, the cheetahs don't just pass, they graduate with honors. And while the lion may roar and the eagle may soar, it is the con artists who quietly rewrite the rules of engagement. But every trick has a limit. Evolution is a two-way street. For every mimic, a predator evolves sharper perception. For every faker, someone learns to call the bluff. The game of deceit is never over. It only evolves. And as this masquerade of survival continues, we now shift to another chapter of wild drama, where deception gives way to chaos, and nature's delicate balance is pushed to its edge. Because when the climate itself becomes the enemy, and weather turns savage, even the cleverest scam can't outsmart the storm. The first sign is not the wind or the rain, not even the thunder that shivers across the sky like a growl from a sleeping giant. It is silence. The kind of silence that presses on the eardrums, that drains color from the trees, and makes the hairs along every creature's spine stand at attention. A collective hush falls across the savannah, the jungle, the reef. Somewhere a bird cuts its song short. Insects vanish without explanation. The land seems to inhale and hold it, waiting for something it cannot stop. And then the sky opens its mouth. A wall of water crashes from the heavens, not in soft droplets, but in sheets. Thick, stinging curtains that erase the line between earth and sky. Lightning shreds the clouds. Thunder booms so loud it startles the ground itself. This is not weather. This is a reckoning, and every living thing must answer to it. Across Earth's wildest frontiers, weather is more than background. It is the ultimate wildcard, the unseen predator that shifts the power balance without favor or warning. For the hunter, it can be ally or curse. For the prey, it can be refuge or trap. A lioness built to stalk through golden grass now finds her scent trails drowned, her movements betrayed by mud. But in that same storm, a frog stirs from its burrow,
singing joyously in the downpour, each note a call to breed, to rise, to thrive. What drowns, one gives birth to another. In the Australian outback, the land can go months, sometimes years, without rain. Dust becomes its own species, choking the lungs of wallabies and smothering seedlings before they get a chance to be anything more than hope. But then, without preamble, the sky cracks and dumps a deluge that turns deserts into green carpets overnight. Flowers bloom in unison, frogs materialize from seemingly nowhere, and the normally slow-moving landscape pulses with explosive life. Yet even this miracle comes with menace. Predators, alert to the change, awaken too. Dingoes follow the fresh scents. Birds of prey ride thermals above the blooming basins. The feast is short, the chase relentless, and life, reborn in the flood, must immediately learn how to run. In the dense forests of the Amazon, fire is rare but never impossible. A single lightning strike, a prolonged dry spell, and the great green labyrinth ignites from within. Flames slither through the underbrush, licking at leaf litter and devouring the detritus that has accumulated over decades. At first glance, fire seems like an apocalypse, a senseless undoing of everything life has built. But watch closely, and you'll see strategy in the ashes. Termites, the architects of the underground, retreat into their fireproof towers. Their mounds, sealed with clay-like walls, withstand heat that fells trees. Some beetles, astonishingly, are drawn to the fire. They can detect infrared radiation and lay eggs in freshly scorched bark, where the weakened wood makes for easy excavation. For them, destruction is just the start of opportunity. Elsewhere, lightning storms split open grasslands like battle cries. But while most flee the chaos, some use it. In the African savanna, fork-tailed drongos, those charismatic glossy black birds with a flair for drama, wait near the edges of fire. Insects, disoriented and fleeing the blaze, become easy pickings. The drongo swoops in, a thief in the chaos, sometimes even mimicking alarm calls to scare other birds away from their catch. Deception meets disaster, and in that strange duet, the drongo eats well. Then there are the creatures who can feel the change long before it arrives. In coastal jungles, ants will begin shifting their colonies to higher ground hours before floodwaters appear. Scientists still debate how they know. Changes in barometric pressure, a sensitivity to electromagnetic fields. Whatever the reason, their instinct outpaces our instruments. Elephants too have been documented fleeing inland before tsunamis strike, their low-frequency rumbles possibly detecting seismic events we never hear. While we look up at the sky for clues, the animals listen to the Earth's bones. But sometimes the weather's fury isn't delivered in noise or fire. It's in absence. Drought, the slow killer, arrives quietly. Days stretch into weeks without a drop. Rivers narrow, ponds crack, and the distance between watering holes becomes a death sentence. As conditions worsen, alliances shatter. Giraffes, once calm browsers, swing their necks at rivals in desperation. Hippos crowd into shrinking pools, their aggression rising with the heat, skin blistering in the unshaded sun. Crocodiles, once spoiled with abundance, grow lean, mean, and less patient, attacking anything that dares approach their muddied thrones. The balance collapses, the weak starve, the clever adapt, and sometimes the bold exploit. In the Namib Desert, fog becomes water. Beetles climb to the tops of dunes each morning and tilt their bodies toward the sea breeze, letting droplets condense and roll into their mouths, a liquid lifeline harvested from thin air. In the Kalahari, sand grouse fly for miles with special belly feathers that absorb water, returning to chicks who drink it like a sponge. These aren't just tricks. They are lifelines engineered through countless generations of challenge and chance. Even snow, the softest of killers, changes the game. In the Arctic tundra, a thick snow layer means safety for the lemming, hidden from foxes, owls, and other sharp-eyed hunters. But too little snow, and the insulation vanishes. Burrows freeze. Predators thrive. One season's snowfall can shift an entire ecosystem's balance of power. The cold doesn't just bite, it chooses sides. And then sometimes nature mixes its moods. A storm during a migration, a heat wave in the middle of nesting, a flash flood during a hunt. There is no mercy in timing. A cheetah mother might lose her cubs to a sudden hailstorm. A monkey troop may abandon their fruiting trees due to one unexpected gust of wind. Weather doesn't discriminate, it doesn't plan, but it shapes everything. These aren't just moments, they are revelations. That in a world ruled by biology and instinct, the final word often belongs to the sky. The wind carves rivers, the rain triggers breeding, the sun dictates hunger, and the storm rewrites the story entirely. Because to survive in the wild is not simply to eat or avoid being eaten, it is to read the clouds, to know when to move, to build homes that bend, not break, to hide when the heat rises, to rise when the fire dies. Evolution doesn't only reward the fittest, it rewards the most adaptable. They arrive soft and wide-eyed, unscarred and unaware of the silent contracts nature has already written on their behalf. The wind does not slow for them. The predators do not wait. In the wild, birth is not a beginning, it is an announcement, a signal sent out across tooth and talon that something vulnerable has entered the game. On a moonlit beach somewhere along the Central American coast, the sand begins to shift as if the earth itself is exhaling. A crack, a wiggle, and then movement. Dozens of tiny sea turtles, scarcely larger than a bottle cap, emerge from the nesting dunes like fragments of shell-shaped dreams. They scramble forward, driven by instinct older than memory, toward a horizon lit only by moonlight dancing on waves. But the beach is no red carpet. It is a gauntlet. The hatchlings must navigate a minefield of ghost crabs lurking in holes, ready to pluck them from the sand in an ambush of claws. Birds circle above in pre-dawn hunger, swooping down like feathery daggers. Even misplaced light, porch bulbs from coastal resorts, can mislead the young into crawling inland, where dehydration and asphalt wait instead of ocean. Of the hundreds that hatch, only a handful will reach the sea. And of those few, fewer still will survive their first year. Yet still they go, flippers frantic, hearts hammering, pulled by a compass built into their bones. Their odds are cruel, but their courage undeniable. Far inland, in the sun-drenched savannas of the Serengeti, another drama unfolds. A wildebeest calf is born, wet, trembling, blinking into a world filled with dust and urgency. Within minutes it is standing, then walking, then running. There is no luxury of time. The migration moves with the speed of hunger and drought. The herd will not wait. And just beyond the perimeter of hooves and muscle, lions lurk, eyes fixed on the weak and the late. A calf that stumbles may not get a second chance, yet there is strength in numbers. The calves learn to run within the chaos, shielded by a living fortress of mothers and elders. It is one of nature's most striking paradoxes. Utter helplessness wrapped in overwhelming unity. But not every mother can rely on a herd. In the shadows of the Amazon, a female jaguar has chosen solitude for safety. She lies hidden in a den hollowed beneath the roots of a saber tree, her twin cubs tucked tightly against her spotted flank. Their eyes are sealed, their world a muffled heartbeat. For the first weeks of life, they will remain invisible. If another predator finds them, an ocelot, a snake, even a male jaguar, their story ends in silence before it begins. So the mother moves carefully. She hunts at night, returns swiftly, licks them clean of scent. There is a tenderness to her ferocity, a grace in the way she guards without being seen. But even for a queen of the jungle, survival is a coin toss when cubs are involved. In the grasslands of India, a newborn langur clings tightly to its mother's chest, tiny hands gripping fur like it is the edge of the world. Its eyes are wide and endlessly curious, unaware that curiosity is a dangerous luxury in a forest woven with leopards and snakes. The troop moves constantly, shifting through the canopy in a symphony of motion, branches bouncing, tails swinging, alarm calls echoing. And amidst all this, the infant must learn when to cling, when to duck, when to cry, and when to stay absolutely still. A single misstep in this treetop ballet and gravity becomes a killer. Even in the waters where life began, infancy is no refuge. A baby dolphin, barely a meter long, swims beside its mother through coral channels buzzing with life. But it is not the colors or coral that concern her. It's the shadows. A tiger shark glides silently beyond the reef, drawn by the scent of birth. The dolphin mother increases her pace, her calf struggling to keep up, still learning the rhythm of breath and swim. She emits a series of high-pitched clicks, not just communication, but warning. In this world, noise is defense, speed is salvation, and youth is a liability. Every leap from the water is part celebration, part surveillance. Across ecosystems, the theme repeats with ruthless consistency: youth is fragile, Eggshell-thin, milk-slicked, blinking, mewling, half-blind and barely breathing, newborns enter a world indifferent to their arrival. For every mother watching with feral intensity, there is a hawk waiting overhead, a hyena tracing scent, or a cold night threatening to take what claws cannot. It is brutal, but it is also strangely beautiful, because within that fragility lies an astonishing will. The baby elephant who struggles to its feet, flopping its ears and failing repeatedly, still tries. The cheetah cub who mimics its mother's stalk in the grass, tail swishing comically, still learns. The flamingo chick born on brittle legs in a salt flat heated like an oven still marches forward, drawn by instinct and the promise of flock. Nature, for all her harshness, does not ask for perfection. She demands persistence. Some creatures gamble even harder. The marsupial frog, for instance, lays her eggs not in water, but inside a pouch on her own back. The young emerge, fully formed, skipping the vulnerable tadpole stage altogether, its biology rewritten to cheat the odds. And then there's the Suriname toad, whose offspring burst through her skin in gelatinous capsules like something from science fiction. The method is grotesque, yes, but it works, and in the wild results matter more than appearances. Even birds play high-stakes games with birth. In the cliffs of Norway, guillemot chicks take a leap of faith, literally, before they can even fly. Still downy, they fling themselves from rocky ledges hundreds of feet high, crashing into the sea below. Most survive, some don't, but the fall is necessary. Predators cannot reach the water as easily. Safety lies in that terrifying plunge. And all the while, the backdrop never softens. Rain falls, fires burn, hunger returns. The earth spins indifferent, and the newborns grow or they vanish. Every survivor becomes part of the story, part of the cycle, the future of a species etched in the wobble of its weakest legs. But if this seems like a cruel design, remember this: nature does not romanticize youth. She sharpens it. And those who make it through, the cubs that grow into stalkers, the calves into chargers, the chicks into gliders, they carry within them not just genetic inheritance, but experience forged in chaos. The lion that nearly drowned becomes the lion that dominates river crossings. The turtle that outran crabs becomes the one that returns years later to lay her own eggs on the same sand, under the same moon. There is a rhythm to the wild, one so intricate it feels almost invisible. You might not see it, not at first, but it's there, humming quietly beneath the trees, pulsing beneath the plains, threading through rivers and roots and wings and hooves. A web so tightly woven that if you tug one thread, others tremble. If you break enough of them, the whole thing collapses. At dawn, in the Namib Desert, a beetle climbs a dune. Not to escape, not to explore, but to drink. It tilts its body against the cool morning wind and lets the fog bead on its shell, droplets rolling into its mouth like a trickle of salvation. That water nourishes it, and it nourishes something else. A lizard perhaps, or a bird. That bird feeds a jackal. The jackal's leftovers are cleaned by scavengers. Each act, each breath, part of a quiet exchange. Far away, in the kelp forests off South Africa's coast, otters twist and spin between fronds like playful ghosts. But their games serve a function. They hunt sea urchins, spiny creatures that, if left unchecked, ravage kelp by the thousands. Without the otters, the forests vanish. And when the forests vanish, the fish that spawn in their shade disappear. The predators that feed on the fish follow, and the fishermen who rely on the sea lose more than a catch. They lose a living. This is the architecture of the food web, and its genius lies in its interdependence, where ants help trees grow and trees cool rivers, and rivers sustain frogs, and frogs feed snakes, and the snakes keep rodents from overrunning the soil. It is not a hierarchy but a harmony, not a chain but a symphony. But even the most beautiful symphony can be silenced. In parts of Southeast Asia, the forests once echoed with the soft clatter of pangolins, shy, scale-clad insectivores that slipped through leaves like armored whispers. They ate termites, aerated the soil and vanished by sunrise. But demand for their scales, wrongly believed to possess medicinal value, turned them into ghosts. As the pangolins disappeared, insect populations surged, ecosystems shifted, and the forest changed. Not in a blaze, but in a subtle decay, the kind that creeps rather than strikes. On islands across the Pacific, brown tree snakes, stowaways from cargo ships, slithered into paradise and silenced it. With no natural predators, they gorged on native birds, many of which had never learned to fear a serpent. Songs vanished. Forests once pollinated by beaks and feathers fell still. The snakes thrived. Everything else paid the price. And then there is the Arctic, where melting ice has forced polar bears to swim longer distances between flows. Some drown. Others venture inland, starving and desperate, clashing with human settlements in scenes both tragic and surreal. The balance isn't just breaking, it's shifting beneath their feet. The web phrase. But the story doesn't end with unraveling. Not always. In the Scottish Highlands, the return of the Eurasian lynx, once hunted to extinction, is now being considered as a way to restore overgrazed forests. Without predators, deer populations exploded, stripping young trees before they had a chance to grow. Reintroducing the lynx could bring fear back to the forest, not as terror but as balance, a landscape shaped by shadow. In Yellowstone, wolves were brought back after decades. Their return triggered a cascade of change so profound it seemed mythical. Elk grew cautious, overgrazed riverbanks recovered, trees returned, beavers came back. So did birds. The rivers, once clogged with erosion, began to hold their shape again. Wolves reshaped not just life, but land. Even in the ruins of Chernobyl, nature reclaims. In the absence of people, wildlife has surged. Bison wander through radioactive grass. Lynx prowl through silent cities. It is not a utopia, but it is a lesson that when given space, even poisoned space, life finds a way. And in the Maldives, coral gardeners dive daily into bleached reefs, attaching fragments of living coral to artificial frames. These reefs, once ghostly white, now flicker with promise. Blue tangs darting through new growth, sea fans swaying like dancers reborn. It's not magic, it's effort. It's choosing to mend what was torn. But the web remains fragile. It has always been fragile. Not weak, but intricate. Designed not for abuse, but for resilience, if given respect. Every dung beetle that rolls its prize under the African sun helps fertilize the grass that feeds the antelope that outruns the lion. Every frog that gulps mosquitoes keeps disease at bay. Every shark that culls the sick from the shoal protects the health of the whole. And yes, every human who chooses preservation over profit holds a thread in their hands too. Because in the end, this is not just a story about the wild, it's a mirror. What we protect reflects who we are. What we lose shapes who we become. And so, as we pull back, as the drone rises above forest and delta, reef and desert, ice and jungle, we see not chaos, but choreography. The web shimmering beneath it all, still holding, still humming, for now. But the next choice, the next hand to touch that thread, might decide whether it holds forever, or snaps for good.